Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome to The View from the biblical site of Sodom. Off to my left, to the east, are the mountains of Moab. I'm looking south, and I am standing on the Dead Sea Transform Fault, roughly. It is the dividing line between the mountains and the valley in which the Dead Sea is contained. And this valley has dropped along this fault over time to be the lowest point on Earth. Now, the hill across from me, across from this line of cars, and beginning about this house here and trending down to the right, that contains the cemetery of Sodom. And archaeologists discovered that this cemetery was burned, and were naturally puzzled by the question of what invading army would take the time to burn the cemetery when attacking the city. This indicates that the site that we're looking at, which is now known as edh-Dhra, is actually a site that was destroyed through natural means, both the city and the cemetery having been burned. Now I'm kind of transitioning to look a little more towards the east, and you can see the far mountains. Those are the mountains of Judea. So we're looking roughly in the direction of Hebron right now, which is where Abraham would have lived, across on the other side of the Dead Sea. And you can see a little thin blue band at the base of the mountains. That's the Dead Sea. And so we're actually in an area where there's kind of an extensive plain, and this plain would have been well watered. The rain would have collected in the mountains of Moab and then been funneled down and given this area a rich, fertile appearance about 4,000 years ago when Abraham and Lot lived here. You can still see some remnants of that agriculture. I'm here in the wintertime, and it's a great season. It's not too hot, definitely not cold. And it produces a lot of good fruits and vegetables down here. Now, this site of edh-Dhra, or Sodom, has an interesting and fascinating interplay between the archaeology and the geology. So we're looking across at the canyon walls here that are about 60 meters deep. And this canyon would not have existed during the time when Sodom was a flourishing city and was inhabited. They would have built their city next to an easily available water source, a river, not next to a canyon where they had to, climb down to get to water. And we know that this canyon has formed since the occupation of this city and since its destruction, because it's actually eroded a good chunk of the city away as it has been, the river has cut down further and further into the layers of sediment here. The reason the river has cut down further and further is because as the fault, the Dead Sea Transform Fault, and the valley here has dropped lower and lower below sea level, the river coming from the mountains has had to cut further into the rock in order to reach the sea. Now, directly in front of me is the gate of Sodom. You can see the pile of rocks here. And this gate faces east, so it faces Hebron, where Abraham would have dwelt at this time. And I like to think of the elders of the city, including Lot, maybe sitting right where this tree is growing now today. And then entering into the city, we find kind of this open area, and where some people are walking around now. This open area would have been the city square. So as the story goes, the angels came to visit Sodom to see how wicked it was. They decided they were going to spend the night in this open square right here. But Lot compelled them to come for their own safety, to come into his home. And of course, a violent mob tried to take the angels, and the mercy was no more. They sealed their judgment at that point. And the next day, the angels drug Lot and his family out to safety, and fire and brimstone rained down from heaven. And this area is completely covered with human remains, ash, broken Middle Bronze Age pottery, and grinding stones, still scattered on the surface today. It has never been re-inhabited since that time. And looking up into the mountains here to the northeast, a mere 23 kilometers away, is the Shihan Volcano. And this volcano may have actually last erupted at the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and may be the source of the brimstone that rained down on the city, and also the source of the ash that extended to heaven like a furnace that Abraham saw across the valley. Now here I am standing in the gate of Sodom, and you can see looking out to the east towards Hebron. The lowest level of stone here would have been street level at the time of Lot. And then I'm continuing up into the city now, stepping in through the chambers of the gate, the tree where maybe marking the spot where Lot sat, and entering into the square behind the gate now, all covered in thick mud and ash here. Nice open area. You could definitely see a large mob gathered here. And I'm going to kind of climb up onto the ruins of the city here. And turning to the north, again, you see the mountains of Moab there, looking off in the direction of the Shihan Volcano, and there's that canyon that is cut away part of the city. Kind of the entire north side of the city is missing, the north wall and the north area of the city. Now I'm at Gomorrah. This is a little further to the south. We're looking back up towards edh-Dhra and Sodom. There's the Dead Sea, a much better view of the Dead Sea from here. Looking east across this pile of rock that marks the site of Gomorrah, another city that has not been inhabited, destroyed by ash. And here you can see again some of the fertility of this area. It's a very agricultural area, a lot of produce still being grown here even throughout the winter months. Looking around, you can see the black stones. There's a lot of burnt and broken pottery. This is at the site of edh-Dhra. And along with that burnt pottery, you find ash and human bones just scattering the surface, bits of finger bone, charcoal, other lumps of burned wood, and just a complete and utter destruction. They gave up their last chance for mercy with the rejection of the angelic visitors who were there to warn them and rescue those who they could. When they gave up that mercy, their cities were burned to ash, and that is all that remains here today.